For about 15 years, I ate eggs the way I had been told to eat them. I followed the rules carefully. I was proud of following them. And almost every one of those rules turned out to be either out of date, half remembered, or something I had invented myself and then forgotten I invented. This is the 5 I got wrong the longest. Not 5 things you are doing wrong. 5 things I did in my own kitchen for years while thinking I was being sensible. The morning it changed for me was not dramatic. I finished breakfast one day and did not go looking for something else an hour later. That was the whole signal. No miracle cures, no scare stories, nothing to buy, just what's actually true. The one at number 1 is the smallest of the 5. It is not about which eggs I bought or how I cooked them. It is about what was next to them on the plate. And it is the one I would change first if I could only change one. For a long stretch after I turned 60, there were 3 things I noticed and never said out loud to anybody. I needed a second cup of tea before the day felt like it had properly started. I would lose the thread of my own sentence halfway through it, in front of people I had known for years. And I was cold in rooms where nobody else was cold. I thought that was just age. It wasn't. Number 5, the part I was throwing in the bin. What I got back here was the taste of my own breakfast, which I had not had in about a decade. For years, I made myself egg white omelets. Crack the egg, tip the yolk from shell to shell, drop it in the bin. 2 eggs in, 1 thing out, and I felt virtuous doing it. It seemed right because the yolk was the rich part, and rich sounded like something you were supposed to be careful with. Then somebody pointed out what is actually in the 2 halves. Nearly everything interesting about an egg is in the yolk. The white is mostly protein and water, so for a decade I had carefully kept the plain half and binned the good one. The 2 parts were never meant to be separated by a man standing over a bin at 7:30 in the morning. So I stopped separating them. I cook the whole egg now, the way my mother did without ever thinking about it. What changed was not health, it was pleasure. Breakfast tasted like something again, and here is the part that stings. Nobody ever told me to throw the yolk away. I picked it up, watching other people do it, and I never once asked why. That is number 5. The next one is about when I let myself eat them at all. Number 4, the hour I had decided they belonged to. What I got back here was a whole second meal I had been eating badly for no reason. I had a rule that eggs were breakfast, not a written rule, not one anybody gave me, just a thing that had hardened. It seemed right because that is how they had always appeared in my life. Every egg I ate as a child arrived before school. Then one evening I had nothing much in, made 2 eggs on toast for supper, and felt faintly like I was getting away with something. Nothing about an egg knows what time it is. Foods belonging to certain hours is a habit of culture, not of food, and it quietly narrows what you eat on the days you are tired. Most of us have 3 or 4 evening meals we can make without thinking, and when we are worn out, we pick the worst one. A 5th option that takes 4 minutes is worth more on a bad evening than any amount of planning. So I moved the rule. What changed was that my worst evenings got better, not my best ones, my worst ones. The nights I would previously have stood in front of an open fridge and then eaten biscuits standing up. That is number 4. Number 3 is the only one on this list somebody actually handed to me. Number 3, the rule. I never went back and checked. What I got back here was a food I like, without the small pause I had been taking before eating it. Somewhere in the early 1990s, I was given a number, a weekly ceiling on eggs. I could not tell you today whether it came from a doctor, a magazine, or my brother-in-law at a family lunch, but I wrote it down somewhere in my head and kept it for 30 years. It seemed right because everybody around me had the same number, and that is the thing about a rule everyone repeats. It stops sounding like advice and starts sounding like weather. The general guidance around eggs moved on, and it moved on a long time ago. The blanket ceiling my number came from was quietly set aside. Nobody rang me to tell me. Nobody rings anyone. So I stopped counting. I did not swing the other way and start eating them by the dozen. I eat them when I want them and not otherwise. What changed was not in my body. It was that breakfast stopped having a small argument in it. And here is the part that took me longest. I kept counting for 2 years after I already knew the guidance had changed. Because 30 years of a habit does not care what you have read. If somebody has given you a specific instruction about your own eating, that is a conversation between the two of you, and this is not it. That is number 3. Number 2, I built entirely by myself. Number 2, the way I cooked them for 30 years. What I got back here was 6 minutes of my morning and a breakfast I looked forward to. I cooked eggs hard, boiled until the yolk was pale and chalky, scrambled until they squeaked, fried until the edges went brown and lacy. It seemed right because hard felt safe, and soft felt like I had not finished the job. There is a whole generation of us raised to believe an undercooked egg was a small act of recklessness. Then I ate an egg at somebody else's table that was cooked properly, and I did not recognize it as the same food. Almost everything I disliked about eggs was something I had done to them. The sulfur smell, the gray ring, the dry, crumbly texture I had to wash down with tea. None of that is the egg. All of it is heat that went on too long. So I started taking them off early. Off the heat while they still look slightly underdone because they keep cooking on the plate for another minute whether you like it or not. What changed was that I stopped needing anything to wash breakfast down with. And here is the silliest part of this whole list. I spent 3 decades cooking a food I had decided I did not much enjoy. And the reason I did not enjoy it was me. That is number 2. Number 1 is not about the egg at all. Number 1, what was next to them on the plate. What I got back here was the middle of my morning, which I had lost so slowly I never noticed it going. For years, I ate eggs alone. 2 eggs on their own on a plate. No toast, no tomatoes. Nothing green, nothing else. It seemed right because it felt clean and disciplined, and it took 90 seconds, and I told myself a good food eaten on its own must be better than a good food eaten with other things. Here is what I found out, and it took an embarrassingly long time. An egg is not a meal. It is an anchor for one. On its own, it is a small, dense, quickly finished thing, and by 10:30 I would be standing at the kitchen counter eating the corner off a block of cheese. I did that for years, and I told myself it was hunger arriving. It was not. It was breakfast finishing early. A meal has to have some bulk in it to feel like a meal. Not more of the egg, something beside the egg. So I put something next to them, a slice of real bread, or half a tin of beans, or a tomato cut up with pepper on it, or whatever green thing was going soft in the drawer and needed using. It is not a recipe. It is the refusal to eat 2 eggs on an empty plate. What changed for me is the thing I mentioned at the start. I stopped going looking for something an hour later. The mid-morning corner of cheese disappeared, and I did not decide to give it up. It simply stopped being necessary. This is the one I would change first, and the one I resisted longest, because eating less on the plate had felt like the responsible thing to do for so long that adding something back felt like losing an argument with myself. The honest part. Here is what to actually expect and how long it took me. The cooking one is immediate. The very next egg you cook differently is better. Putting something next to them took about a week before I noticed the mid-morning gap had closed, and another month before I trusted it. Letting go of the weekly number took 2 years, and most of that was not information. It was habit. Now the part nobody in this corner of the internet says out loud. None of this is going to change very much. Eggs are a food, a good one, an old one, a cheap one. They are not a lever. If you are hoping that changing how you eat them will change how you feel in some large way, I do not think it will, and I would rather tell you that than let you find out in 6 weeks. What it will do is make 5 or 6 meals a week better and simpler. And over a year, that is not nothing. There is no supplement version of this. It is eggs. And here is the thing that matters most on a list like this. Most people give up on a small change about a fortnight before it would have become invisible to them, which is the point at which it starts actually working. The change you notice yourself making is still costing you something. The one you have forgotten you made is free. 2 weeks is where nearly everybody stops, and it is the worst possible place to stop. And finally, some of what I have described was never about eggs at all. Some of it is just a body that has done 60-odd years of work, and it does not owe you 30. If you are a little slower in the mornings than you were, that may simply be true, and it is allowed to be true. Not everything after 60 is a problem, waiting for a solution, whatever anybody is selling. So those are the 5. Number 5, throwing away the yolk. which was the good half. Number 4, deciding eggs belong to 1 hour of the day. Number 3, keeping a weekly number for 30 years after it stopped being the guidance. Number 2, cooking them hard and then blaming the egg. And number 1, eating them on an empty plate, which is the smallest change and the only one I would insist on. 5 rules, 30 years. Not one of them checked. Tell me in the comments what you'd like explained next. I read every single one. A like helps this reach other people who would rather understand something than be frightened into buying it. And if you would rather have the honest version than the exciting one, that is the whole reason this channel exists. Here is to the healthy living years.